Hey, welcome back to the Tiki Lounge here at the Hotel Orloff in scenic, historic rural Retreat, Virginia. It is January the 14th, 2024, and it is quite frigid outside, as you can see by the icy windows. In fact, right now I think it's minus 11. It got down to minus 18 last night. So, I'm proud of myself. It's probably not the way you're supposed to do it, but I got a leaf blower out of the garage on a long extension cord, and I blew I'll open this up, blew the snow off the stairs so I could kind of get down and see where the stairs are. And then I actually got the car out, and I took it to the supermarket, and I stocked up on some frozen meals. This is the state of things here on January 14th. I'm letting in too much cold air. Let me do it to the window. But anyway, the streets are okay. You can drive on them. My car is not, when I started the engine, there's a check engine light, and then there's a cruise control light that flashes on and off. So the car's internal system is a little confused, and probably not a good thing to be driving the car in minus 12 degree weather, but I just had to go a block to the supermarket, and so now we're a little more stocked up for the next few days. Work was canceled tomorrow. Tomorrow night is the caucus, and that's just a few blocks from me, so I need to get out and vote, and so at least I know that my car will operate. Which is the caucus. You'll just think I'm mad, but then you already think that anyway. But I'm pretty sure that this weather system was engineered by mad scientists in a lab, weather warfare, to interfere with that caucus tomorrow night. Because this snow ain't going nowhere. Because I think tomorrow the high is going to be 0 degrees. Anyway, out of pure boredom and because I miss you guys, we'll look at some more comic books from the old days when America was great. So we were looking at these books last night, and so I'm sorry, just remembering the incident with Drew last night, but we won't talk about that. Right, Drew? Drew's in a good mood. Her stomach's doing better. She puked a little bit this morning, and I think she's better and, doing better, ladies and gentlemen. Did I finish this box last night? No, I don't think I did. Watching the highlights of the Oversight and Judiciary hearings from the other day, holding Hunter Biden, and they're trying to hold Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress. So, anyway, that's how I'm spending my afternoon. How about that? This is this is when I need to do it. I did it when it's dark outside. You don't have as much light, but now that it's about 3 o'clock, there's just enough light where you can really see these covers really good. This is a DC comic, 52 big pages. It is number magnifying glass number 18. It's a pre-code comic from the early Eisenhower era. We like Ike here at the Hotel Orloff. You ever seen President Eisenhower, General Eisenhower's granddaughter? You can see her. She used to be on YouTube. They may have banned her. You may have to see her on Rumble. But she's like You can see the Eisenhower in her face. You can see it in the eyes. She's like a, how would I describe her? She's like a new age kind of right wing kind of person that you see her a lot on. At least we used to see her a lot. Here's another issue of Western fighters. Her name is Laura Eisenhower. Look her up. Yeah, I went to high school with descendant of George Washington, and you could see the George Washington in her. She had platinum blonde hair, so she looked kind of like the way George Washington looks on the dollar bill. It even kind of came out on the sides, and she wasn't an unattractive girl. You would think, if she looks like George Washington. You could, if you lined up 200 people from my high school graduating class, or lined up the entire high school graduating class, which was a lot of people, and said one of these people is related to George Washington, you would pick her out. She was pretty, but she had a square jaw, just like George Washington did. George Washington being another great general who later became a president. Here's a Western hero. Now this is, I would assume you would call it a Golden Age comic, or an Atomic Age comic, or Uranium Age comic. I call it a, well, let's make sure before I go spouting off inaccuracies. It's issue number 83, October 49. Oh, this is a Truman Age comic. Here's Hopalong Cassidy. And this is, long before the Comics Code, they had this approved reading symbol that they put on there. They kind of like sensed something was going to happen. But it's also a much thinner, this would actually fit into a Silver Age bag. How about that? This has Tom Mix, Monty Hill, and Hopalong Cassidy. 3 names lost to time, except in the minds of people that listen to their parents and grandparents talk about their childhood heroes and grew to like them. But I think most people my age would not know who those 3 people are. In fact, I'm almost certain of it. But, I still listen to old-time radio, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is a hero. I don't care what you say. Monty Hill. See, I don't even know Monty Hill. I know Tom Mix and Hopalong Cassidy. I mean, Monty Hill, I would recognize that name, but I've never seen any Monty Hill movie or anything, as far as I know. We're in the W's, guys, so that's why we're getting all these W comics. Here is a Dell Giant Western Roundup. These Dell Giants are really good value. I got several of these Western Roundups. These I was picking up for, I think I was picking them up for $5. And I guarantee you, there's still multiple boxes filled with Westerns of this vintage at Duncanville Books in Duncanville, Texas, right outside Dallas. I am sure they're all still there, still selling for $5, and nobody touches them, and no one's interested in them. But and look how thick these Dell Giants were, and that little dot tells you that it's a $5 comic. And the cool thing about Duncanville Books is that they write on here, what does it say? No back cover, number 4. So at least they're honest. It's telling you there's no back cover, and it's issue number 4. Here is yet another one. Let's see what it says on here. This one also has no back cover, number 7, so it's obvious these came from the same collection. They bought somebody's Western comic collection, they put them out for sale, and they never sold except for the few that I picked up. And here's a comic that should be in a bag and board from Avon. It's Wild Bill Hickok, but it's not in a bag and board because I need to. Damn. I need to get bags and boards. Look at that. Wild Bill Hickok. Here's Wild Bill Pecos from April 1950. Oh, my wife's calling. It always happens when I start the show. Look at, I need to go talk with her. Here is, here is a really cool character. Look at that. What is she saying? Ooh, what was that? It was a death trap of dynamite set for you, Calamity Kate. That's Calamity Kate there. So, 52 pages of Western bad men. Yeah. I'm going to let Drew entertain you. She's staying warm here while I go see what's going on with my wife. I'll be right back.
And if the Democrats are not the hypocrites that they constantly display that they are, then they will vote for contempt of Congress because they voted for it on every other subpoena that didn't go through. And here's the last thing. You guys had your chance. If you wanted to hold people in contempt of Congress, you could have done it last Congress, but you
yields back. The gentleman from Texas, recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this markup is about Hunter Biden. It's not about President Trump. I keep hearing my colleagues on the left talk about President Trump and that no one is above the law, and I keep hearing this argument ad infinitum. I guess what they mean is that no one is above the law except for when it comes to President Biden's son Hunter. And Hunter Biden should not be given special treatment. He defied congressional subpoena and should be treated like others who have done the same. Plain and simple. See, Hunter should not be treated with kid gloves. This man is 50 years old. Literally. Grown-ass man. Congressional Democrats held Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro in contempt of Congress for not complying with congressional subpoenas concerning an investigation to January 6th. Hunter had every right to appear and plead the fifth, and he chose to defy the subpoena when he instead held a self-serving press conference right at the steps of this building. When Democrats issued subpoenas to Republicans during the House January 6th investigation, President Biden said, and I quote, "I hope that the committee goes after them and holds them accountable criminally." End quote. Okay, all right. Now let's do Hunter, and that's why we're here. Hunter Biden makes arguments of passion to excuse his behavior. His best defense is often.
Okay, I've got to get a frozen dinner for my wife, that one that takes the least amount of time. So, whoa. Let's see. Got this one. Conventional oven, 35 to 37 minutes. That's too long, man. What about... How about this one? They're all going to be the same, right? They're all banquet, aren't they? Yeah. 30 to 32 minutes. What about this? Yeah, I went out, like I think I told you, I went to the supermarket to get some stuff. This one, man, that's 45 to 45 minutes in a conventional oven. She doesn't like the microwave food because she says it screws up the, I don't know. I'll give her this. Okay, I'll be back. Well, I'll take you with me. Oh. No! Okay, stay. This one is the shortest time. I used the leaf blower to blow the snow where I could get down the steps. Yeah, I could try that. I gotta go to the caucus. I mean, when I drive the car, it says check engine, and the cruise light flashes on and off because I think it's confused about how cold it is. It's probably not good to be driving it. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. All right. All right. How about that? Well, I'm cooking the meal for her.
I would love to answer your question.
All right. Okay, so we were looking at Western comics. We've wasted, what, 5, 6, 7 minutes? No, Drew. Drew, are you hungry now? Now Drew wants to be fed. Here's another copy of Wild Bill Pecos Westerner from September 1950. This one I got from Gotham City Comics, the historic comic book store in Mesa, Arizona. It opened in 1872, before comic books were invented, and everyone loves Gotham City Comics. Kevin Johnson, owner and proprietor. This is issue number 11 of Wild Western. And she's going to eat this comic. I better. Drew, I'm glad your appetite is back, because you've been puking horrible things all morning. This guy's one of the most horrible sons of bitches on the planet Earth. Just so you know. I forget what his name is. Is it Raskin or something like that? Okay. How about top sirloin flavor? So, there you go. You got some grub over there, some pood. I have to say pood because my wife says pood. And so she knows the word pood, not food. And I tell her, you're teaching her incorrect English. So when she starts speaking, she's going to appear uneducated. But I think she calls it pood because my good friend who passed away, his older brother, would always talk in weird baby talk to his dogs, and he always called it pood to them. And so therefore, food is pood here in the Hotel Orloff. Oh, did I tell you we're opening a restaurant in the back room? More to come about that. Did I already show you this one? This is, I probably did. It seems familiar. How about that? Well, it's back again due to popular demand. Yeah, these are Atlas. Atlas, also known as Timely, and we now know it as Marvel. Or we did know it as Marvel. Now we know it as shit. Because Marvel is no longer what it was. But when I was a kid, they were still publishing Kid Colt and the Ringo Kid, albeit mostly in reprints in the early 70s. But those were all pre-code, and then here comes the mighty Comics Code Authority, and the very first few issues had the Comics Code gigantic. To let parents know, hey, it's okay, this will not cause your child to join a motorcycle gang or to whatever. Here is a all Jack Davis. You know, it looks like, you know, there were many knockoffs of Mad in the 50s. And, of course, Jack Davis was one of the main artists of Mad, going back to probably the first issue. But this is a very different thing. Yak Yak. Look at this ad for this Twinkles record. I bet you could hear this Twinkles record on YouTube. YouTube is pretty wonderful in some ways, pretty horrible in some ways with its censorship and everything. And the commercials, they're starting to just really amp up the commercials in order to get you to pay that $30, $25 to not have commercials. But the thing about this from Dell is it's all Jack Davis. And I love the beatnik cover. And yeah, I think there might be several issues of this. This is the only one I've ever found. It is from 1961. Yeah. When in 1961? Come on. Man, it doesn't give you a month. It just says 1961. It's here's the table of contents, which you don't often see in a comic. It's not in the best of condition. I got it real cheap at Duncanville Books. But here's a parody of The Untouchables called The Touchables. There's also a kind of an adult movie that came out in the early 60s called The Touchables, but that was a whole different kind of thing. And then you got an ad for you can win a jet to Hollywood. How about that? And look, Mighty Mouse appears in it. How about that? But the whole, well, I'm wrong. That page isn't by Jack Davis, but almost. Oh, look, the Three Stooges appear here. See that? Fantastic. Man, I thought there were. It's very much laid out like kind of like a Mad magazine, but with color. How to win, parody of How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yeah, all Jack Davis. Very much a Mad magazine attempt. This is not the one I'm thinking of. There was a Jack Davis comic like this that had just a whole bunch of pictures of like Civil War soldiers and stuff. I guess it isn't. This is the one I thought it was. Must be a different book. Jack Davis was a big aficionado of the history of combat and war. So he's a real. You get Jack Davis to illustrate like a Civil War story, it's going to be pretty accurate, pretty spot on with the way that the soldiers look and everything. Look at that box. I keep my older books in. Got chewed on there. There's the Gotham City Comics emblem I decorated it with. Trying to decorate all my short boxes with Gotham City Comics stickers. I don't know, it adds a little bit of class and dignity to your comic book room. You want your comic room to look dignified. And there's another sticker that Gotham City Comics proprietor Kevin Johnson sent to me. Man, I thought Lone Star Comics. No, it wasn't Lone Star Comics. Anyway, the store had I bought 2 of them, and I went back and thought, I'm going to get a whole bunch of these. And they didn't have any more. So I'm glad I got 2 of them. It was Lone Star Comics, but then they closed their brick and mortar stores and went strictly online selling, which is now called mycomicshop.com. But they sold it to some young people that were employees, longtime employees of the store, and they kept it pretty much the way it was, except they changed the name from Lone Star Comics to Wild West Comics. And Lone has the same number of letters as Wild, and Star is the same number of letters as West. And it's still the same kind of theme, Lone Star, Wild West. And so they just changed the name to Wild West Comics. Anyway, I think it was when it was called Wild West and it was operated by those younger people is when I got those boxes. That's why I was. Okay, let's. This box is the earlier part of the alphabet. Here's A Date with Judy, which was a radio show, comedy on the radio. Faster, Oogie, A Date with Judy. Mrs. Ocasio-Cortez is upset about why are they being so mean to that poor Hunter Biden? Okay, All-American Western. And of course it's going to be all-American because that's where the West happened. But, uh-oh, now they're going to a commercial in the middle. They're interrupting Sandy Cortez with a commercial. Oh, look, it's a commercial for Ramaswamy. I thought maybe Ramaswamy might wind up being Trump's vice president, but now Trump, I mean, he started putting out these commercials saying, there's no way they're going to let Trump anywhere near the White House. You have to vote for me, and I will continue his mission. He was a wonderful president, but they're not going to let him do it. So why would they let you? I'm starting to realize he's way too polished. He's like a used car salesman. I like what he says, but I'm starting to get a little dubious. I think we need to stick with Trump, ladies and gentlemen. This is a comic book, ladies and gentlemen. Have you ever heard of them? Oh. Yes, indeed. How about that? I tell you what number it is, but they don't have that on the cover for some reason, which is odd for a DC comic. This is Ben Bowie and his Mountain Men. I don't know. Was there a Ben Bowie that was related to Jim Bowie? I don't know. But boy, is that a beautiful painting. Right, Drew? Nice date stamp there. Obviously, this is put out during the Davy Crockett craze with the hopes that, you know, people that like Davy Crockett will, you know, see the coonskin cap and take it up. Beautiful cover there. Black Diamond Western, number 19. These covers are always my mind. I believe I keep hearing different people on YouTube pronouncing his name differently. I'm pretty sure it's Charles Byro. Charles Byro, Lev Gleason publisher, they put out a lot of crime comics. I mean, some great, like the comic Crime Does Not Pay. That was a great comic, but it was one of the comics that brought about the Comics Code because it was ostensibly true crime stories, and it could be pretty gory and stuff. And the claim was these Congress people, Senate people were saying, well, these comics are causing kids to they're studying from these comics and they're learning how to commit crimes. Anyway, this is Black Diamond Western, and of course, having grown up in the 70s, when I see this comic, the Kiss song immediately comes to my head, to my mind. Ooh, Black Diamond. Okay, beautiful cover. Last night, the sky looked just like that. It was very pretty last night at the sunset with the beautiful snow and everything. I wish I had recorded it for you. The logo, this is kind of unusual. The logo is actually larger, or is it about the same size as the artwork? It's interesting design. You certainly could read this from quite a ways away, even with my eyes. There's another copy of Black. Boy, that looks nice. Even in this crummy bag, it looks really nice. If I put it into a Mylight, man, it would be. What is it, this new term? Who is it that invented the term blazer? Right? I hear people saying it. I'm not sure if I should like that term or hate it. I don't know where it started. If it started with someone I respect or someone I don't like. But I'll call it a blazer. It's a blazer, dude. Hey, Comic Fam, what do you think of this, Comic Fam? I think we should speculate on it because I'm going to send that up to CGC. I hear they're going to make a Black Diamond movie. This one I love. It's not Blazing Saddles, but Blazing West. How many? Yeah. I guess I wonder how many movies westerns had started with blazing. Western movies, and then Western comics. I wonder how many started with blazing. That may have influenced Mel Brooks calling it Blazing Saddles. It's probably blazing. You think Blazing six guns, Blazing Saddles. Saddles aren't supposed to be on fire, unless, of course. Guess that might be a reference to that bean scene in Blazing Saddles. This is Blazing West number 11. This is from ACG.
Hunter Biden is more than welcome to come in front of the committee. He wants to clear his good name.
He wants to clear his good name. His good name? Oh my. How about just he wants to clear his name? It's not a good name. This is a comic that's in pretty terrible condition, but as they say, it's Bobby Benson's B-Bar-B Riders. It's better to have it in bad condition than no condition. That's another cliche. There was a YouTuber who did a 15-minute rant the other day saying, I'm sick and tired of people saying, buy what you like. That's just not what you should say to people that are getting into comics. You should tell them, buy what you like, but here are the comics that are out there that you could possibly invest in and that you might like. There are these kind of comics that have this. And I think when people are wanting to buy comics in order to make an investment, comics are not a really good investment. They're not a good place to put your money because in order to sell the comics, if you've got high dollar books, you're going to have to pay all these charges for slabbing the comic, and it's probably going to cost you $450 just to put it up to sell it, or through auction. I don't know which is cheaper, to sell it through eBay or auction. And it's like you keep all these comics, and then your children or your wife are gonna or husband, if you're a female comic collector, are gonna have to figure out a way to liquidate these books, and they're not gonna know what the books are worth. But if you're buying it for short term to turn it around, I don't know. I think there are better places to put your money. And I mean, in 50 years, people are still going to know who Bugs Bunny is. But a lot of these comics I'm showing you are basically worthless. Like I told you, some of these books, they're Golden Age or Truman Age or Eisenhower Age, but you can get them for $5, like very easily. And comic stores will put $5 on them and they won't sell. So that means they're not even really worth $5. They're worth less than that. I mean, so when someone's saying, gosh, I want to park my money in some comic books, that that's just not. I was talking about this with Meyer Greenblatt yesterday. What you want to do is if someone's like, basically, why do we say and I say it, buy what you like. It's because someone says, hey, what should I buy? And I said, buy what you like. It might be that what you like when I was in second grade and I bought the first appearance of Ghost Rider, I scored. That wound up being worth a lot of money years later. And other books that I bought back in 1972, like Little Pals, put out by Marvel, isn't that valuable now. So, but I liked both of them. And so if you buy something you like, if it goes up in value, great. You'll know, hey, that's worth something. If it doesn't, you'll still have something you enjoy. That's the reason we say that to you. Plus, we're kind of thumbing our nose at investors. Don't invest your money in it. Buy what you like. But that particular person didn't quite understand it. This is oh, there's where it is. Kevin, it's here. Because I didn't take this book out. Okay. What? Okay, I see. I got this book from Kevin Johnson. I never took it out of the bag, to be honest with you, like all those idiot speculators. But it's a great Bugs Bunny book. I knew that he had put, because he bought all these comics and there was just a cover for Wonder Woman. Only the cover. And I thought, well, that's great. I can frame that. And everyone will think I have the comic book. But I thought, hey, and he says, hey, I'll give you the cover. I mean, no one's going to. So I have this great cover. I love the skin tone on her. It's like she's been sunburned. That's the cover to Wonder Woman number something. And I didn't know he also had included the cover to this Davy Crockett comic, which is one of the ones that I don't have, which will also look good framed. But this collection had come from a woman that had lived in Colorado, and there were two of these cards in there, and I thought, that's great. And he sent one to Jambo Comics and one to me, and I kept saying, hey, I never got that card. He says, I put it in the back of one of the comics I sent you. And here it is. I just discovered it live on the air. This is how we know that the lady lived in Colorado. There was a guy, I guess maybe a little bit younger than me. It seems like the guys that are in their 40s really thought comics were great in the 90s. So he comes into Gotham City Comics in Mesa, Arizona. And he has boxes and tubs and boxes of comics. He says, I've got some great stuff here, my childhood comics from the 1990s, which are usually worthless. And then he says, well, that's what he thought he was going to get the money from. Then he said, hey, I've also got some boxes of stuff that was my mom's. And of course, that was where all the cool stuff was, like this. And even 1950s Submariner comics. There was great stuff in there, great. So Graphic Man, Jambo, myself went on a live stream. You can watch it from last summer, and we looked at every comic in all those boxes. And I said, put that one in my pile. And Jambo said, put that one in. There were great Fiction House, everything. This woman, his mother, apparently had been into westerns and funny animals and a little bit of superheroes. There was an old Batman in there too. But there were just two of these in there, this postcard from this theater, and I just love the woman's hair piled up like that. That is something, that is like really high hair. That's higher than Yeoman Rand, and I've always loved high hair, man. That's the greatest. So it's some dinner theater in Colorado, and because of that, these two were in there mixed with the comics. We became aware that, oh, these comics must have spent at least a few decades or most of their life in Colorado, and now they're with the son in Arizona, because these did not look like an Arizona collection because they were just in too good a shape. A lot of Disney in there too. So Graphic Man got a lot of cool Disney Donald Duck comics, and Captain Strangelife I told Captain Strangelife about it. He got a lot of rainy covers with rain coming down on people. He collects rain covers where there's rain depicted. And anyway, so how did this collection survive so wonderfully? And it was because it's from Colorado. And of course, the Mile High collection came from Colorado. Colorado is a good place to live, to make sure your comics stay nice. Okay, well, that's great. I kept wondering, where is that? The OCD in my, and it's like, where it's in the back of some comic. He told me, yeah, I put it in the back behind a comic. And that's why I got a big shipment from Gotham City, and that's the one comic I didn't, because I just figured, well, it's got the Wonder Woman cover in the back. Here's another one of those shoe store giveaways. I showed you Ready Goose comics from the Red Goose shoe store yesterday. Those comics, I believe, I'm positive Captain Strangelove sent me in an AOK. And these are this is a TV show. In fact, you can see some footage of this show on or whole episodes possibly on YouTube. There's a really good channel you should go to, run by and what's his name? Anyway, it's called TV Days. Just TV DAYS, all is one word. Go look that up on YouTube. He has great transfers of 50s, all kinds of old cartoons, 50s TV shows. Ira Gallen. His name is Ira Gallen, out of New York. He was. I saw him talk at an art museum back in the 80s with my friend Randy, and because he was putting out laser discs of what he called ephemeral films. And he put out 2 laser discs of ephemeral films. Ephemeral films are films that weren't made to last. You know, they were meant commercials or films that were made to show in schools to teach you good manners. And so he transferred a lot of those. So a lot of times when you see those films about how to wash your hands, how to act in a lunch line at school, and they're 1950s real Leave It to Beaver looking films, or how to act on a date. Those films came from Ira Gallen, finding them basically being thrown away, and he would transfer them lovingly. And so that guy is on YouTube. TV Days, Ira Gallen. Oh, he also put out like a whole laser disc of old commercials, like for the Great Garloo and Robot Commando. And so a lot of time when you see these collections of old TV commercials, the first Barbie and everything, those were usually transferred by him. And by the way, people say, boy, that's so corny. Why did they have to teach kids how to have good manners back in the 1950s? That's just so corny. I can't believe people acted like that back then. No, they didn't act that way. As kids, it's just like you watch these sitcoms and you just figure everything was like Father Knows Best and Leave It to Beaver. To a certain degree, it was. It was a far better time, and that's the time that Donald Trump's talking about when he says, make America great again. He's talking about the 1950s. He's not talking about the 1850s and slavery. He's talking about the 50s and how wonderful it was. But there were problems. And there was a lot of juvenile delinquency and teenage gangs. And we see that in our culture in shows like Happy Days and Fonzie, and you see the movie Grease, and they're gang members, but they're just fun-loving and nice people, really. But in reality, those people that look like Fonzie and that look like Danny and Grease were in reality real sons of bitches, and they had knife fights, and there was a guy that used to run a record store where I used to live, and he was one of those 50s hoodlums that he grew up in. I don't know if he was in the military for a while, and then he was a manager of a Safeway for a long time. Then he opened a vintage record store, and he still had his pompadour and everything, and he had his attitude, and he'd pull guns on customers quite frequently, and if someone complained about the price, he'd just break the record in front of them. Or if there was a little kung fu studio next door, And if one of those people came in from next door barefoot, he could pull a gun on them. He was or if you touched the wrong records, get your hands off my 50s. He didn't want you touching the 50s records. I don't know how you see what's there. I guess you have to ask him. Anyway, he was a good friend of my friend Gerald. So he really, and I met him in his later years after he'd sold the record store. And my friend Gerald took me over to his house, and he says, yeah, I'm sorry I used to act that way to people. But he had half his garage converted into this 50s paradise with a jukebox and everything. And he was one of those guys that would go see Gene Vincent, and tear up the seats with knives and jumping on the seats. And anyway, so why did that happen? Was it because of comic books? Is that why kids became juvenile delinquents in the 50s with the black leather jackets and everything? Was it because of rock and roll? Those were symptoms. What happened is World War II happened. And there were a lot of kids that their dads didn't come home from the war. So they're being raised by single moms, and that happens a lot today, and they didn't know how to act. So that's why these films were teaching you how to act on a date, how to shake hands and all that. That's the real reason those films exist, although they might look corny to you now. The baby boomers came along, so there were these kids that never had their dads come home that kind of turned into juvenile delinquents, and there were these kids whose dads did come home, and they had pretty good lives. And although there was a lot of alcoholism because of what those guys had seen in World War II, and those guys didn't listen to that crazy hopped up big band music anymore. They wanted to be they had enough noise, and they just sat there with their martini and listened to their hi-fi system and listened to Montavani's or the 101 strings and just calm music. I want things calm. Or they'd listen to exotica music from Martin Denny and Arthur Lyman, because they'd been out in the guys that had been out, at least in fighting the Japanese, they knew it. They'd seen Hawaii, and they'd seen all this stuff, and so that they wanted to listen to that. But you look at an old issue of Time or Newsweek from that time period, the 50s and 60s, like every ad's for alcohol. But here's something else. Those kids that loved these comic books, they loved their comic books. They loved their EC comics. They loved the horror comics. Those were taken away from them. I mean, the Congress, Senate subcommittee hearings, the industry started self-regulating with the... Are you hungry again, Drew? I guess I got to feed her again. Anyway, they started the self-censoring comics code of authority, right, that I was showing you. And so right about the time, almost to the month that the comics code came in early 55, rock and roll started. And Elvis records started coming out. And then that became the new thread. Why are these kids acting so crazy? Well, it had to be the comic books, and then so it was like whack-a-mole. So they whacked to the comics, and the comics got knocked down, and then rock and roll came up. And then in the late 50s, there's no coincidence that Elvis got drafted. They tried whacking rock and roll down and bringing in, I'm not knocking these people like Paul Anka and, people like that were not as threatening as, hold on a moment. You got to put yourself in, Little Richard, Gene Vincent, these guys, Elvis, they seemed horrifying to people, to parents. So Elvis got drafted and rock and roll kind of went down. And so they'd taken away their comic books, they'd taken away their rock and roll, and then the Beatles and the British invasion came along, and the Rolling Stones, and that's when. So basically, that generation, the hippie movement, whatever, you know, in their childhood, they'd had their comics taken away, they'd had their rock and roll taken away, and then they're told, "Hey, sign up for the draft for this war that on the other," and that's kind of the way that went. So, you got to kind of understand. And so what did they bring back? The hippie movement. They brought back rock and roll, and they brought back comic books. And if you look at those underground comic books, you'll realize how much influence they have from EC and from the Harvey Kurtzman Mad. And you know who was? I'm not a big fan of the Grateful Dead, but Jerry Garcia apparently had all the Mad comics. He was a huge EC collector, and I like most 60s music, but the Grateful Dead just never. Maybe I haven't heard enough of it. I don't know. I just saw there was a bootleg of The Doors on YouTube this morning. It's in my January to watch list. They're doing like Pipeline, the surf song. It's like, I didn't know the Doors ever did surf music, and it's like all these songs that the Doors never recorded for their albums that are on this. It's wild. It's like bizarre. This is from Quality. This is obviously right after the code came in. That's I see people that look like that today. There are girls that wear the 50s glasses and do their hair up like that. Is that called a victory roll? I think that started in World War II. You've got to look up this girl on YouTube named Pinup Palmer. She's apparently just recently joined the cast of Svengoolie, playing like a vampire type girl or something. But Pinup Palmer on her YouTube channel is like a real life. She's in her early 20s. She's like a cross between Jessica Rabbit and Elvira. And she did a Christmas special. We turned it on. My wife says, I'm going to hate this. She wound up loving her, and she goes and tours all these places. She goes to the Winchester House and everything. And she's very pretty and knows how to do makeup really well. That's, I think, what my wife was impressed with. She'll show you how to do Marilyn Monroe's makeup. But a lot of these YouTube, because my wife's into makeup and cosmetics, and a lot of them, they'll put on Marilyn Monroe style makeup, but this girl knows the details. And so my wife was impressed because Marilyn Monroe would create a 3D effect with her lips by she'd use 2 different lipsticks, slightly different colors to create, kind of like you do with a painting. Women in makeup, it's really like if they're really good at it, it's really like they're Frank Frazetta or something. They can completely alter their nose, and they'll put little white bits on the tip of their nose to make it, just. Anyway, here's the coverless issue of Candy. What is this here? Oh, it's this would be a very valuable comic, but this is one of those PS Art Books facsimiles. This is a very recent facsimile, so it may still be available. And so you'll pay about $12, $15, something like that, dollars for it, as opposed to thousands of dollars for this great Mac. First time I've ever said it out loud. Macroboy cover. Macroboy. I've been aware of Mac Raboy, first Raboy, since I was in 5th grade reading the Steranko History of Comics in 1975. But I've never said the name out loud, and I've watched in chagrin on YouTube people pronouncing it Mac Raboy, Mac Raboy, all these macrame, whatever, and it's like, oh boy, what is really the proper pronunciation of that name? Because I don't want to seem like a dolt, but I think it's Mac Raboy. Rayboy is just too ridiculous. Here's a, this is a high-grade copy of Cave Girl. Now, waiting for me at Gotham City Comics is a reprints of all the Cave Girl, like in a new book. And I'm going to get that soon. When I was trying to start my car in minus 12-degree weather, it was like the engine was sounding real bad. And I thought, oh boy, I hope I'm not destroying my engine in my car, because I can't afford another car. We're already trying to come up with the money for property tax. And for what else do we need? Oh, we got to pay our electric bill, which is incredibly high. I don't normally have all these lights on. I only turn them on when I'm doing this show, because there's a lot of lights, man. And here, when you turn on one light switch, it turns on that light, the light over there, this light, and that light, and then this light over there. It's a total of, 6 chandeliers get turned on by that one light. So hopefully, when Trump becomes president again, it'll come down to a little bit. Anyway, I was joking. This cover is like solid tape. I don't know if you can tell that or not, but it presents well. Here's Chilly Willy, and I know what he feels like. Now, you see these type of things on the cover of comics, and then when you actually see those patterns on your window, and you realize, hey, I know what that means. Oh, okay. Here's Charles. Here's a Crime Does Not Pay Charles Biro comic. I like this one because this is one of those comics. He's knocking the guy's teeth out. This is one of those comics that the comics code was, and it says more than 6 million readers monthly. Over 100 million copies sold. So it's like it's like McDonald's, man. And it's violent, true crime stories. And I don't know. I think people have always been interested in crime stories, and kids weren't the only ones reading these comics. I mean, comics were really meant for kids, but I mean, there were also adults reading comics. It was probably not something you would admit, but a lot of the guys because in World War II and the Korean War, you don't have a lot of entertainment. There's comic books, and magazines, and beer and cigarettes. It's like sometimes they would bring a sheet out and they would project a Hollywood movie. Now, I don't know about in the Korean War, but my dad in the Vietnam War, he said, oh, there's a movie going to be played called The Yellow Submarine, and he must have thought it was going to be a war movie. So you had to bring your folding chair out there and sit there and watch this movie, and he did not. He said he folded his chair up immediately and went back to wherever, his barracks or his tent or whatever. He was not into that. This is a wonderful Dale Evans cover. I think Jambo got all the Dale Evans comics out of that I don't want to call her old, out of that woman's collection. Except I told him I wanted that one with the target. That cover is just beautiful. And here's a Dale Evans that I have without a cover, so you can see how It's DC. You can see how just really great the artwork is. What's weird is that Roy Rogers and Dale Evans, they had both had comic books, but they were put out by different companies. I thought that was strange. Okay, Donald Duck. Here is another one of those great female villainesses from Don Winslow of the Navy. Singapore Sal. Some of these characters would be worth me getting my paints out and doing a painting of them. Maybe Singapore Sal and that other girl on that Western comic I showed you earlier. And I've always wanted a painting of Princess Dragon Mom from the movie Inframan. If you've never seen Inframan, you need to watch that immediately. Stop this video, watch Inframan. I'm sure someone's got a bootleg copy on YouTube, or maybe it's streaming somewhere. That's a movie you should own, though. Yeah, look at these horrible things that guys in the Navy have to deal with. Okay, what do we got here? Oh yeah, I bought this in Des Moines. Little mini comic. They had only time I've ever seen anyone selling a Tilly the Toiler comic book, but it was in such bad condition, you know, it looked like someone wiped their butt with it, that I didn't buy it. But one of these days I'll get a Tilly the Toiler comic, just for the memory of my mother, because that was a comic she said she read as a little girl, and all through her life, till she was in her 70s, she was drawing a picture of Tilly the Toiler. I realize now, whenever she talked on the phone, whenever she was doodling, she was drawing a profile of Tilly the Toiler. And that's something I'd like to get. Harvey Comics, Felix the Cat, number 94.